Okay, and we're back with another episode of Draft Academy. I'm Ryan Lieberthal, joined by Phil Berelovitz and Jared Angel. What's happening, boys?
What's
Hi,
happening,
Leaps.
Leaps? Nice to have the three musketeers back together.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Yeah, sorry, boys. Been on a month bender. Newcastle still top four, so sorry. It's good to be back, and I have missed you, boys. But you guys are doing a great job without me. Great job.
Shot, Phil. We appreciate that after we carried you for weeks on end.
You did. I'm sure your back is sore, Leaps.
Nice to have you back.
Yeah, no, good to be back, boys.
Quick one for you, Ange. We've spoken about this quite a lot, so just to touch on it very quickly. You definitely would have given the Liverpool Chelsea game a good watch over the weekend. Two teams that are struggling. Anyone who maybe looked like they might be worth a trade offer? Anyone who looked like they might be on the turn of some form?
No. But there were one or two new Chelsea players that caught my eye.
Yeah, definitely.
Mudryk, I think that's how you say his name. He looked like
I think you've given that a good go.
Yeah, Mudryk.
Probably the first glimpse of a Hazard replacement in all this time for Chelsea. So he looked really impressive. And then, again, I've got to try and get the name right, of Badasili. I think that's right as well. He's come in centre back. And he started his first two games in 2 clean sheets. We saw Koulibaly be the man to make space for him, which makes my draft team so excited about that. So, in terms of that game, I do not see any players I would try and trade for right now. I thought it was a little bit of a mess from two very experienced teams and teams that have won a lot of silverware in the last couple of seasons. So, my 2 cents on that game. Any thoughts from your guys' side?
So just what pretty much what you were saying, I think the defense of Chelsea's looked pretty solid. I think that buddy Yashile, whatever, I think that's his name, he has given him a bit more of a solid look and feel in defense. And Age, if you could just do that again. But he seemed to. A few tongue twisters coming. I wouldn't want to be a commentator for Chelsea coming up these days. Because I also signed a new winger named Noni Madueke. I think that's how you say his name. I'm not
really
sure.
Good, Phil.
So, Chelsea, I think they just looked a lot more solid at the back from what I saw. And, like I said, I don't know much about that Mudryk. I've never seen him before until his 25 minutes against Liverpool, but he did look very exciting. And if that's just the start of things to come, he could take Chelsea to the next level, the next gear.
Not just the start of things to come. I mean, apparently he hasn't played high-level football in quite a long time. For that to be like part of his return to football, I mean, I'm sure he's had some good training under his belt. But if he's just getting back to his best, then I think he's looking like a really good prospect. But talking about players that could be tasty to, Ange.
Just want to throw one quick thing in there. Liverpool's defense, he was up against a 37-year-old James Milner.
Yeah, fair enough.
Who's keeping Trent out the side as well.
So Lampard got sacked today, which we've got to touch on. What do you guys think about going on a bit of a raid of the Everton team? Because it's actually a really good squad, right? You got Tarkowski with Connor Cody paired up in the middle. Like, they could potentially be a very good centre back pairing, right? You've got up front quite a few options. You've got Dom Calvert-Lewin, who hasn't looked in any kind of form since he's come back. You've got the likes of Gray, there's Iwobi, there's Gordon. There's like lots of interesting pieces in that team. And with the right manager, they could be a pretty decent team. They've got a lot to play for at the moment. And I personally think even though fixtures aren't too fantastic, it might be worth taking a punt on a few Everton players if you've got some loose spots in your team.
Look, I think I'd wait to see maybe who they bring in and what type of manager. Are they going to bring in a more defensive manager, and then you may want to focus more on those type of assets? Are they going to bring in an attacking manager? Like if you just look at some of Everton's stats, they've only conceded 28 goals, which is less than Fulham, but the issue is they've only scored 15. So.
Yeah, look, 100%. But at the same time, I think it's important to also remember that this is a time in the season where good pickups are vital. And if you don't go for any players now over this waiver wire, then all that's going to happen is if they perform over the weekend, then they're fair game and everyone's going to be punting for them, right? So, you kind of sometimes have to go in early for these players.
So, Leibs, I'll tell you something interesting what I saw earlier is the odds-on favourite manager to take the job is Sean Dyche. It's not confirmed, but if that is the man who comes in, there are a couple ex-Burnley players who have played underneath him, Tarkowski, McNeil. So all of a sudden, those guys could be the ones that become quite attractive because they know what he does, especially like a Tarkowski. I mean, that guy was a power defender, got quite a few clean sheets under Dyche. He is quite a defensive manager. The clean sheets could pick up if it's someone like him coming in. And then
the set pieces.
Yeah, exactly. So, like you say, I think what Jared says is true. Depending on who the manager is important. But if it's going to be Sean Dyche, it could be a defender pick. Could be quite a nice, exciting time to raid the defense.
Okay, because then I was actually going to bring this up a little bit later, but I'll bring it up now then, right? Because at this time of the season, I've got quite a crazy strategy that I play. If you look at my waiver history, you'll see a few interesting moves that I've done in the last few weeks, right? I held Sancho for a game week this game weekend, which was as expected. I picked up Brian Gill and held him for a couple of weeks. But the reason that I'm going for these guys and the reason that I'm thinking about some Everton players is because, second half of the season, there always are some surprise guys that come through and finish off the season strongly. And Brian Gill, saw him having a good game for Tottenham. He really bossed the game quite decently. Tottenham haven't been playing that well. Could be the guy to maybe give them a little bit of form. And if you got that extra spot on your team, just holding up a player who's, not performing, why not take a punt on a guy like Sancho, who was back in first team training? There were a few articles saying he might be in contention for the bench against Arsenal, which I didn't think would happen. But Ten Hag's come out and said that he's still a whiles away from being up for contention. Sometimes you got to take these wild punts at this time of the season and just go a little bit crazy and see what you get.
No, I hear what you're saying, Leaves. I've actually done something a bit opposite, and it's starting to get a bit frustrating because I've been holding on to Daniel Podence. He's one of those headache players where he starts a few games, gets the odd goal, then he doesn't play, then he comes on for 10 minutes. And I see what you're saying. Why not, if you've got a player like that who's frustrating you, why not find someone who catches the eye in a game and you see him performing? It is worth taking the punt, where I held Daniel Podence this week. I was thinking about dropping him and going for a bit of I was actually thinking of Ziyech from Chelsea, but I held on to Podence and he didn't play. So it's a risk and reward, but I see what you're saying. It can pay off if you do pick up a guy who comes in and can maybe hold down a spot as well in a team if they play well.
Look, I think Podence is a really good bench player. Someone maybe keep in your bench, not going to rely on, because over the course of the season he will get you some decent points and probably more points than if you're bouncing around players. I mean, it's different strategies, but he's a senior Wolves player. They're bouncing around their strikers here and there. So, I think Podence will get some points. If I had to use an example of something we did recently, is we dropped Danny Ings and picked up Ganonto, which is looking like a stroke of genius at the moment with Ings doing his knee and out for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Just going to glance over the fact that there was a brief period of time we had signed an agreement with West Ham and you were looking like you had fully shit the bed.
No. If you watch the Leeds game again, I think the player we picked up in Gononto has been definitely a shiner, and I think over the course of the rest of the season, he's going to get a decent amount of returns for us. Ings was a bench player for me, and that's why that decision was quite easy. It wasn't like, am I dropping one of my starting strikers?
And
the Gononto does look good.
Sorry, say that again?
And a double game week coming up this week as well.
Yeah. One of the motivations for the move as well.
Yeah. Always got to be looking ahead.
Yeah.
So, look, I think we all agree. I mean, just before we move on from that, are there any other Everton assets that you think, if the right manager comes along, could be worth a looking? Because I saw in our draft, Gray got snatched up already. He already got picked up on the news of Lampard going down. If I just take a quick look at our waiver wire, Iwobi's available, Gordon's available, like you mentioned, Phil McNeil's available. So there's a lot of options, and I think I'm only selected on midfielders. Yeah, a little glimpse into where my eye's been for the last little while. But there are some decent players there, and we all agree change of manager could bring something. Surely Leicester and West Ham are also on the brink of making big decisions when it comes to their managers. And there's some really nice assets.
Well, yeah, I don't know if West Ham have turned. I mean, they just won this weekend. Bowen looked in decent form, getting 2 goals. I feel like David Moyes isn't going anywhere. I feel like they backed him in the market. He bought some big signings and spent a lot of money. So I don't know about David Moyes. I think, I know they are hovering around the relegation zone, but he is a bit of a survival specialist. So I don't know what you'll get at West Ham It's a tough one at the moment. I don't think David Moyes is going anywhere. I think Rodgers is in more trouble. When I do watch Leicester, they don't look, and if there's no Maddison, they just don't look the same team. He makes them, he keeps them. It's pretty much like a one-man team at the moment. He's the only one doing the business, and if it's not him, there's no one else helping out, and that's a problem.
Yeah, look. So I mean, I don't disagree with you in terms of the fact that Rodgers needs to go, and it's been evident for a long time that Rodgers needs to go. But for me, if you look at West Ham, they're playing Newcastle, Chelsea, and Spurs in their next few fixtures. If they don't get returns in those games, they're in that relegation zone pretty strongly, right?
Yeah.
You've got to look at your options. They've got really good players. Jared Bowen coming off of a double. And you could probably trade for Jared Bowen pretty cheaply at the moment, right? If you were a Jared Bowen holder, how easy would it be to tempt Jared off your hands?
So I mean, the funny thing is, people have short-term memories, and I'd probably the same, exactly the same. Probably last week it would have been very easy to tempt him off an owner, but the second he gets a double, all of a sudden people are going to say, no, you're not coming near Jared Bowen. He was one of the top scorers last season. So it's a difficult one, but I do think, right now, Liebs, I want to ask you a question. If you were a Jared Bowen owner, if you were a Matoma owner,
yeah.
Matoma from Brighton,
yes.
If I came to you with Jared Bowen for Matoma, what do you say to me right now?
Yeah, see, for me, Matoma doesn't have enough of a track record for me to make that trade.
Okay.
Bowen, I know his quality, I know his class. If you had come to me with a James Maddison that was in the same form,
okay,
in the same form, no returns, and even though Bowen returned this weekend, say he had no returns for 7 game weeks, and Bowen had no returns for 7 game weeks, I'd be okay, I'm willing to take a punt on James Maddison. And you and
Fair
I actually,
enough.
I burned myself on a trade with you when I did that. I was a Mahrez holder, and he hadn't scored in weeks and weeks and weeks, and you were a Rooney holder. And I was already
Yes, I
leaving.
remember this. I remember this. And it turned my season a bit. Picking up Mahrez. Yeah. No, trades are tough. I'll be honest. I get nervous every time I make a trade. Before I press that accept button, the heart pounds and you quadruple check your decision. But there are some people out there who love doing a trade. And you can't blame them. It is exciting and can change your season. And it's,
But let me ask you, Phil, something that I'm quite curious about is, so there's some players for Newcastle that are nailed on, right? We've got Gomes, who's got an injury at the moment, right?
No, he's back. He's back.
Okay,
He
so
actually came back. Yeah, it wasn't a long term.
Okay. Then we've got Wilson and Isaac up front, right? Almiron still playing well, even though he's not like returning.
Yeah.
Joe Linton has really been important for Newcastle this season, right?
Yeah.
Are Newcastle going to be dipping into the transfer market? Are there any players that have been linked with Newcastle that you think could be worth a pickup in the event that a trade goes through?
So an interesting thing is Eddie Howe got interviewed just after Chris Wood moved to Nottingham Forest on loan, and he was asked by a reporter, the reason you're letting Wood go with an injury-prone Callum Wilson and Isaac, is there a reason that you let your third striker go? And his answer was that we potentially bring in a replacement for Wood. So the funny thing is the only name that I've been seeing linked in the last day or two is actually Anthony Gordon from Everton. And which is quite an interesting one because that's long-term thinking. I don't know if he jumped straight into the first team, but he did look like a dangerous prospect when he burst into the scene at Everton, and he has just dipped a bit and hasn't really got much game time. But to be honest, Leaps, we haven't been linked with many names in the window, and so we look like the squad is doing the business. But I do think we will bring in one or two players. I think we do maybe need one more winger and potentially that striker. So Gordon could be a good pickup because he can play across the front three. So that is someone that maybe if you just a name to keep your eye out for as a transfer prospect for Newcastle.
Okay, nice one. I'll go pick him up as soon as we're off this call.
A free agent. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Anything else you want to end off on?
No, just not really. I have missed the show, and I just want to ask you, saying, Leave, this little trivia question. Do you know a little trivia question for you? Do you know who the current top form player is in the last 5 game weeks? He's got the best form rating in fantasy draft in the last 5 weeks.
Sure, that is interesting. That's an interesting.
With a form rating of 9.2, he's averaging 9.2 points in his last 5 matches.
9.2 in his last 5.
It's a surprise pick.
Jumps to mind.
You got it, Leaves. It's good old Solly. Good old Solly March, eh? Who would have seen Solly March topping the form table?
Can I tell you who would have seen Solly March, Phil? The guy who picked him up on the waivers.
Was it you, Leaves?
Yeah, I was surprised that I got him.
Sure. No, what a... Since Trossard's gone, this Oak has taken that attacking role and is ripping it to pieces. It's unreal what he's doing there.
Well, I'll tell you what he's doing. He's taking that attacking role and he's about to rip our league to pieces, brother.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit of a hiding this week. Foxy's taking it, so the race is back on.
It's always been on, Phil. It's always been on. Anyway, Phil, we've lost Angel. So
yeah,
we should call it as we see it. It's been lovely to see you.
Perfect.
Keep that beautiful face away from your wife for too long.
No, I'm back. I'm back for good now, boys. I'm back.
Sweet, Philly. Well, it's good to have you back. Good to see you. And
cool,
we'll
thank you.
Week, unless you decide to go AWOL on us for another.
I'm back, Blakey. I'm back. And thanks to everyone for listening.